The uMKhonto Wesizwe party leader, Jacob Zuma, has launched the party's election manifesto at the Orlando Stadium in Soweto. Thousands of MK supporters travelled from across the country to attend the launch. The party had hoped to fill the over 35,000-seater stadium. Now, this event was delayed by what the party says was sabotage from external forces as their buses arrived late. There were also technical glitches to its broadcast stream. Let's get the latest now on this story. Joining us in studio is our reporter, Juniour Khumalo. Juniour, in the MK's endeavour to fill the 35,000-seater stadium, reports are emerging of what the party says is sabotage, or external forces trying to interrupt their programme. What happened here?
So those are some of the suggestions that the party itself, especially the leader, Jacob Zuma, as well as his daughter, who we spoke to earlier before the start of the event, they both seem to suggest that there was some sort of sabotage because some of the supporters were coming from KwaZulu-Natal. So they had quite a few buses that were bringing in a lot of people to the Orlando Stadium, and they seem to suggest that on the way there were some roadblocks that were formed, and this prevented these people from getting to the stadium on time for the president to start. Because initially the program was supposed to start at 9:30, but we know that it only got underway at around 3 o'clock.
So looking at the address itself by the former president Jacob Zuma, he said a lot about unity, emphasizing the need specifically for black South Africans to unite, and this for a two-thirds majority vote, or a determination of a two-thirds majority for the MK party. How do you think this message resonates, especially with the current socio-political climate in the country?
I think it resonated well, especially with the people that were in the stadium, because every time he would mention some of these things like black people are still suffering, or he would say that we need to create a lot of jobs for black people, because the manifesto itself seemed to focus on black South Africans who are registered to vote. So it resonated well. I received a lot of applause. A lot of the people in the crowd actually were responding well to him. Let's just take a listen to what he had to say about some of the things that he wanted to see, especially being done for black South Africans.
Sifikela hayi ngoba sithanda ukuthi sakhe uMkhonto wesizwe. Silethwe ukuhlupheka nakubukelwa phansi ndawo yonke indlela oyicabangayo kulelizwe. Uma sikhuluma ngokuthi abantu abaqasheki bathi ke phecelezi kuthiwa yini konje, kuthiwa yi-unwhat unemployment. Uma kukhulunywa nge-unemployment kukhulunywa ngendlela emnyama, akekho omunye kukhulunywa ngayo. Uma kukhulunywa ngabantu abahlala emkhukhwini yithi, akekho kolunye uhlobo ohlala emkhukhwini.
So, Juniour, as you heard from the man himself, he touched a lot on addressing socio-economic challenges such as unemployment, inadequate housing, saying that it affects black people or the black community. In your view, did the manifesto provide any concrete response or solutions to how the MK party plans to address some of these problems?
None at all, to be honest. He did touch a lot, as you've already said, about unemployment, the youth, and as I already said, like the manifesto itself was focused on particularly on black South Africans, but it was more like a jab to the ANC, because he kept saying that the ANC has been in power for more than 30 years. He actually started when the negotiations were happening just before the dawn of democracy, and he said that the negotiating team from the ANC actually failed to ensure that it negotiates in a way that ensures that a majority of black South Africans are actually empowered. So this is why we have seen this linger for so long, that black people are languishing in poverty. So as much as he pointed to the problem, it didn't seem like there were any solutions that uMkhonto Wesizwe itself is putting on the table.
Also interesting, Juniour, is Zuma's critique of Parliament. He was quite critical of members of Parliament, very interestingly, a Parliament that he also served at some point, accusing MPs of neglecting the people's struggle, from what he says. Do you think this critique will resonate with voters?
Some voters are very disheartened by the trajectory that the country is taking, in particular with Parliament, especially when it comes to the ANC itself. A lot of South Africans see Parliament as being used to protect a lot of ANC MPs.
Yeah.
The ANC has a majority in Parliament. So every time there is someone that has to be held accountable by portfolio committees, the portfolio committees seem to take a side. That's what a lot of opposition parties have argued, and uMkhonto Wesizwe in the stance was also arguing the same thing, that Parliament has been used as an entity to actually safeguard the ANC's interests, basically, not those of the majority South Africans.
Junior, as you've heard time and time again, filling up a stadium doesn't necessarily translate to what will happen at the polls. But judging from the atmosphere in stadium, what would you say the general atmosphere was, especially among the attendees? Were they excited about the plans that the MK party is putting forward?
Allow me to prefix this by saying that uMkhonto Wesizwe has only been in existence for 8 months. So it's a party that has actually been punching above its weight. But when it comes to today, they struggled to fill up that stadium. Truth be told, the gates were opened at 8 o'clock. It took them about 7 hours before the program got underway. So it didn't bode well for a party that is saying that we are ready to govern. If you are struggling to fill up a 37,000-seater stadium, it doesn't bode well. The leadership itself was nowhere to be seen at some point. We were looking for the spokesperson. We were looking for the Secretary General of the party because there were people stuck at the gates as well. So the management itself from the party's side did not bode well for a party that is saying that we are ready to actually govern.
So, Junior, from a comparative perspective, as a new entrant, you're quite right, the MK party is still generally a very young party. But when looking at their policies, how would you say they fare against more established parties like the ANC, the DA, or even EFF?
The struggle is that there's no clear policy within the uMkhonto Wesizwe party. They keep saying that what we are doing for now, because they also have an interim leadership. So they were arguing that what we have done in the 8 months that we have been in power, we've been going around listening to some of the concerns that the South Africans are raising, and this is what we aim to address. But the point is, what are you addressing and what steps are you going to put in place? There's no clear outlining of those steps. They're just saying that we need to change the constitution because we feel like the laws of this country are currently not serving South Africans, the majority South Africans. But they're not saying what exactly in the constitution or what exactly in the laws are we going to change. Even Zuma kept pointing at how he claims that he was arrested for no reason. So he says that even the justice system needs to be overhauled, but he's not saying this is how we overhaul the justice system. Yes, they seem to propose that we need to give more powers to traditional leaders in South Africa. We need to go back to that. But that's basically all that they are saying. That's all that they're proposing for now. I'm sure they are still going to ventilate this. They're going to have a policy conference. They are going to elect proper leadership. But for now, it's still touch and go for the new party.
Junior, very quickly before I let you go, leading up to these elections, there was a lot of ruction, especially within the MK party structures. We saw a leadership battle, if you will, play out. While at the stadium today, did you get any sense of a party that's divided?
You do get that sense, especially from the utterances that were made by the former president himself, Jacob Zuma, and the current leader of uMkhonto Wesizwe. He did indicate that he has been cautioning people not to jostle for positions, because it seems like that is where the fights, the cracks within the party are being formed, with individuals trying to get those leadership positions, because all of them that are currently holding the positions are in interim leadership. So he said that if they do get those 2/3 majority, some people are going to go into parliament, but others are going to go into the NEC of the party that's going to be formed. Surprisingly, he said that the individuals that are going to be NEC members as well are going to get the same amount of money that is going to be got by the MPs. So he was basically trying to say that don't worry about the positions. If you don't get the positions in parliament, there's still positions that are going to be within the party.
Juniour, let me thank you for your time. That's Juniour Khumalo, our reporter, who's been covering proceedings, of course, at the Orlando Stadium in Soweto, where the MK party was hosting the launch of their manifesto.